Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai Waharakah Kodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. The 2 Corinthians 2:11 says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So based upon the scriptures teach us about Esau Edom's character. We understand that Esau Edom is the devil. That's the first trick. See, Esau will try and set up characters and have you thinking this one's good and this one's bad. When you understand the scriptures, you know there's no good Edomites. So therefore, we already knew that Biden was the devil and Trump was the devil. Where most people that are under the psychosis, under the witchcraft, they think there's a good guy and a bad guy. So if you're on the left, you think, oh yeah, Biden's he's the good guy. Trump is the devil. Then if you're on the right, you think Biden is the devil and Trump is the good guy. Not understanding that they're all Satan. And once you understand that, then you can see through all the games and the theatrics that go on. Because none of these people care about the people. They don't even care about their own people. What they care about is their enterprise. All right? Their joint venture, which if you ain't going to the meetings where they talk about it, then you ain't party to it. You understand? All right? You just need to be concerned about football and whatever they put on the news for you to care about. You're not in the secret council of the ungodly. You're not among the heads of Esau. All right? You're a pawn. All right? To be manipulated. And that's exactly what happens. All right? But we, the prophets, we're not to be ignorant of Satan's devices, which means plans. We're not to be ignorant of that. We understand because we got the scriptures. We know Esau. We understand the prophecies. We know where all this is heading. All right? And it's not a good place. So when Esau's promising you all these good things, you know it's a lie. Okay, so I had this video. Let's play this.
Not and just anything that isn't moving atoms, like anything that is not physically, like doing physical work, that will obviously be the first thing. Those jobs will be and are being eliminated by AI at a very rapid pace.
So we're in the middle of this AI revolution where more and more entry-level jobs, especially more and more entry-level jobs are being removed and being replaced by AI. All right, because the AI can do it and it's cheaper. All right, we're already in that process, right? The economy it's been that way ever since automation came in and you got robots in factories. AI is just the next stage of that, right? Industries in general have become less labor intensive over time. That's just how it's been. Ever since the Industrial Revolution began and the invention of machines, it's become more less labor intensive, more capital. You got to put more money down, but then you get the machines and then you get the profit in the end. All right, so this is just an extension of that, meaning there's less and less actual work for people to do for these corporations to run. All right, so they're paying out less money to people into the system. All right.
And ultimately, working will be optional because.
Right, working will. He's trying to sell it in a nice way. Oh, it's going to be optional. He's trying to sell a utopia, and this is what these guys do. You got certain people who they're set up to sell this technological change as something which is going to be good for the people, meaning the robots and the AIs will do all the work and you will just benefit from that. Like you're going to be getting things for free and all this stuff, and you're going to have all your spare time to do hobbies, which is not the reality. All right, that's not the reality. If the system deems that you're obsolete, they're just going to get rid of you. All right. It's dystopian, but they have to sell it like it's utopian. So yeah, working will be optional. You choose whether you work or not.
You'll have robots plus AI, and we'll have, in a benign scenario.
And who's going to own these robots and the AI? The system, the big corporations, because it's not the little guy that's going to have all this technology. the little guys being left behind by technology. It's going to be the big corporations, the Amazons, the Walmarts, the big NWO corporations, and the government are going to really be running all this. They're running the whole system through AI and robots and a few employees that remain. So anyone outside of that, you're living based upon the state. All right, you're living on the state's dime, which is funny because this whole thing with the snap, which we're gonna talk about, it's just a problem that they're creating. But ultimately, they plan on the majority of people being unemployed and having to be on these state benefits. But they're gonna change the state benefits. This is what this whole thing is all about. Oh, you're giving people food stamps and they're going and buying this and that with it, or they're selling the stamps. And basically what they're gonna do is they're gonna change the system completely to bring more control over what you can and can't do with your so-called SNAP benefits, and that's your UBI. All right, the system's everything they do, every crisis they bring, there's a reason for it, multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that the UBI isn't going to be exactly like SNAP benefits. It's going to be similar, but more control. So they have to break down the old system and cause a crisis in order to bring a new system.
Universal high income, not just universal basic income. Universal.
Yeah, that's when they rebranded it. It's not universal basic income. It's going to be universal high income. So he's trying to sell this world where the robots and the AI do all the work, and then everybody's going to get some high wage. So everybody can live great based upon UHI, UBI. Okay, because we know in Esau's nature is to take care of everybody like that. Yeah, the world wouldn't be the way it is. You wouldn't need no UBI and all this stuff if you'd have just been fair with the way you rule the world. You created all these. You're the one that's creating all this suffering and all these extremes.
High income, meaning anyone can have any products or services that they want.
So
but there will be a lot of trauma and disruption along the way.
Of course, yeah. That disruption, what he's talking about there is the system's going to have to be brought to crisis, which they're in the process of doing. A whole bunch of people are going to have to die or be killed off, and then they can lock in this new system with the MOTB and everything. That's what that disruption that he's talking about is mass depopulation and a total tearing up of the way the system operates now. All right, and that's what they're in the process of doing, right? Demolishing the old system and creating these crises in order to justify bringing in the new system. Now, the thing is, right, you got this guy Trump, yeah, when he was running for office, wasn't promising these things. You see, because you got all these Edomites, especially in America, who suffered under globalization because they lost a lot of their jobs, right? They lost a lot of their income, and the way the American economy has been run, pretty much the standard of living of these Edomites has been getting lower and lower in general, while the rich get richer, of course, right? The middle class is being put under pressure. The children of the middle class are not as successful as they would thought they would want to be, right? So here it is. Trump is running on bringing things back to the way it was, right? He's selling them a dream. I'm going to make America great again. I'm going to reverse globalization, right? That's not what the tariffs are there to do. The tariffs were literally there to just disrupt global trade to bring in a new system. All right, it's not there to make America great again, right? He going destroy these small businesses all over the world through this disruption. But anyway, that's the same thing the C-19 was doing. So yes, that's correct. I said that Trump campaigned on returning manufacturing to America and restoring jobs lost to globalization, right? So they're all in factories and all that work that was put into the East and into South America, it will all come back to America. That's what Trump was running on. You're going to get that job back in the factory, right? So it says, during both his 2016 and 2020 presidential campaigns, Donald Trump made reviving American manufacturing and bringing back jobs lost to globalization central themes. Here's a breakdown of what that meant in practice. All right, so this is what the devil tried to sell to you. Right? Trump argued that the decades of globalization, free trade agreements, and offshoring had hollowed out U.S. manufacturing communities, which is true. And that was all by design, right? Particularly in the Midwest, the Rust Belt, right? This is why these people were so desperate for a hero, and the elites provided one, a liar. His slogan, Make America Great Again, often tied into restoring these lost industrial jobs, right? The whole Make America Great Again is all about these Edomites who have been disenfranchised with their own kingdom because the elites have left them behind. They sped off, right? They jumped in their Ferrari and they left them behind for dead. Them being able to catch back up, them getting these good jobs, them getting this relief, them separating themselves further from the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. The American dream, all right, which is always an illusion, all right, because America was not set up for that. America was set up for the New World Order, all right. His slogan, Make America Great, often tied into restoring these lost industrial jobs. Key policies and promises, renegotiating trade deals. He criticized agreements like NAFTA, right, which he signed NAFTA too. He calling it a disaster for U.S. workers. In office, he replaced it with the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which he said would better protect American labor and manufacturing. Tariffs and trade wars. Trump imposed tariffs on steel, aluminum, and Chinese goods, aiming to make U.S. manufacturing more competitive and pressure foreign nations, especially China, to change their trade practices. Tax and regulatory policy, he implemented corporate tax cuts and deregulation to encourage companies to invest and produce rather than abroad. And some of them will. But guess what? Their jobs ain't coming back. It says buy American, hire American, blah, blah, blah. The impact, some manufacturing jobs did return or were retained, especially before the C-19 pandemic. However, economists note that automation, right, and productivity gains more than trade alone were responsible for much of the long-term job loss in manufacturing, meaning the trend couldn't easily be reversed by trade policy, right? That's why I'm trying to tell you that when you're bringing in robots and you're investing in manufacturing becomes less based upon manpower and more upon robots and machines, and that alone reduces your staff. All right. Tariffs also led to retaliatory measures and higher costs for U.S. manufacturers and consumers. So this is the point now. It says, how does this contrast to Trump's AI initiatives and companies reducing human labor, right? Because on one hand, he's telling you he's going to bring these jobs back by bringing back these manufacturing. But even if these factories came back to America, they're not going to come back the same way they left. Manufacturing has changed since the jobs left. If they start building new factories in America, these new factories are going to be automated. So the only people that's going to be working there is a few engineers, which they're probably going to bring in from other countries, H1B1 dons, and you're going to have some construction jobs to build the factory. But once the factory is built, that's it. You don't need them, man, no more. Right? Excellent. A very insightful question. You're pointing out a real tension in Trump's economic message. On one hand, he campaigned to restore blue-collar manufacturing jobs, but on the other, technological progress, including AI and automation, inherently reduces the need for human labor in exactly those industries. All right? So Trump is out there pushing AI. That's one of the first things he did, right? The Stargate thing when he came into office. So you're pushing AI and pushing all these technologies, and these same technologies are part of the reason why the people are getting their job opportunities reduced. But you're telling them that their jobs are coming back. It's a lie. The jobs ain't coming back. So more and more people are going to be unemployed, or their wages are going to go down because there's going to be more unemployed people competing for the same jobs, which drives down wages. Like when you're reducing the federal staff, those federal staffs that leave the public sector enter the private sector, which drives down wages. This is just simple supply and demand. All them man that was celebrating, oh, they fired all these federal staff. Where do you think those federal staffs then go to look for a job? In the private sector, which means they're going to be willing to take less and less money to get that job because there's more competition now. People don't think, man. Trump's economic narrative, Trump's platform emphasizes bringing back lost jobs in factories, coal mines, and steel plants, national self-sufficiency in production made in America, human-centered labor revival, especially for the working class. This was a nostalgic protectionist vision focused on reviving traditional industrial employment that globalization and outsourcing had eroded. AI, automation, and technological displacement. At the same time, AI and automation are transforming manufacturing and logistics. Robots, AI-driven production systems, and machine learning tools increase efficiency and reduce labor costs. In modern factories, more output is achieved with fewer workers. So the point is that you've got even more people that need jobs than before, but there's going to be less jobs. So how do you solve that? Well, UBI, and that's what Elon Musk already told you. Yeah, it's going to have to be UBI, which is the MOTB system. So right now they got you hating on the SNAP benefits people. You're hating on them, and she gets this amount of money a month, and they're buying this, and they're selling these food stamps, and they got the working class people and the middle class people hating on the people on SNAP benefits, not understanding that most of you are going to end up on a form of SNAP benefits, which is the UBI. But by then it would have been transformed because of all the complaining. Yeah, if they get it, you see people saying if they get it, there should be these checks and that checks for fraud. Yeah, that it's going to be an all-encompassing social credit system. That's basically what's going to happen. The SNAP benefit system is going to become like a social credit system where they're going to be checking you in order for you to get that money. And then when you get that money, they're going to check what you spend it on, if you spend it, where you spend it, right? And that brings in digital money into it, right? Stable coins and all that. You wait, you're going to see. They're going to transform this thing, all right? And then in the end, to get it, you're going to have to get that CHIZ. All right? They're going to create these crises in healthcare, crisis all over, in order to justify you having to get chipped to access these things. All right? Robots, AI-driven production systems, and machine learning tools increase efficiency and reduce labor costs. In modern factories, more output is achieved with fewer workers. Companies increasingly adopt AI-driven predictive maintenance, logistics optimization, and robotics, meaning the return of factories doesn't necessarily mean a return of factory jobs. And this is what I was saying from the very beginning. But you see, because the average American is of a low IQ, it's easy for Trump to just get up there, spit some rhetoric, and it sounds right if you don't think about it. It's like watching a Hollywood movie. Yeah, it's a great movie if you don't think about it. The minute you start thinking about it, bare plot holes and nonsense just on multiple levels, you're like, yeah, this is some bullshit. But if you just turn your brain off and just watch the flashing lights and enjoy the fight scene and don't think about nothing, yeah, it might make sense if you turn your brain off. And this is what politicians do. They rely on the fact that the average American is unable to critically think. And then on top of that, all these influences, and half of them are just agents designed to speak things to manipulate your mind. When I could see it straight off the bat, yeah, what you're saying don't make no sense, man. It's a contradictory. How are you saying that tariffs is going to pay off the debt, but then at the same time the tariffs are going to fall over time? How does that make sense? Then you're saying that the manufacturing ain't going to come back then. Or is it? It was confusion. But they get you focused on BS, like the stock market and stuff like that, yeah. And they hit you with so many things, one after another. You ain't got time to think and actually break down what is actually happening, man. Look how much shit has happened since Trump's gotten into office. How can an average person, you have to really sit down and think about what's going on and not be distracted from one thing to another. And that's how they get people. So yeah, even if production comes back to the US soil, those plants are highly automated, employing far fewer people than in the 1970s and 1990s, right? Trump's stance on AI, Trump's position on AI was not central to his economic message. Yet that's the first thing he did when he came into office, Stargate. But there were some initiatives. In 2019, he signed an executive order on maintaining American leadership in artificial intelligence, launching the American AI Initiative. The goal was to keep the U.S. competitive in development, right? Which what you see happening over the East is controlled by the elites the same way what's happening in the West. But what they're doing again is the Hegelian dialectic. They're using what's happening in the East as an excuse to do it in the West. Oh, if we don't do it, then we're going to fall behind. You see? The goal was to keep the US competitive in AI development, especially against China, rather than to regulate automation or protect displaced workers. You see? There was no major policy focused on restraining workforce transition or managing job displacement caused by AI. So Trump's AI policy aimed at national competitive, not at mitigating the social consequences of automation. The contradiction. Here's the core contradiction. Trump's promise is to bring back manufacturing jobs for American workers, America first and domestic production, right? Defend workers from globalization. What is the contradiction? The AI automation reality. AI and robotics reduce need for workers in manufacturing. Companies reshore production but use automated facilities. Doesn't address the technological job loss from automation and AI. In short, Trump's economic vision looked backward to industrial era jobs, while AI represents the forward-looking force transforming and shrinking those same roles. All right? So these men here, they already have a vision of what they're going to do to America. It's the demolition. The America you know, right, for you, the boomers, that the boomers enjoyed, is not coming back. They're demolishing that. You will own nothing and you will enjoy it. They're going to break the American people to the point where you're begging to take a chip. And that's what's coming down the pipeline. That's prophecy. All right? That's prophecy. Meanwhile, they're out there trying to get these Edomites to focus on immigration and blaming everything on non-whites and immigrants. And these people are falling for it, man, because they're morons. Whether you're in the UK, whether you're in France, whether you're in America, they've got the propaganda out there full steam to get these men to blame everything. Everything that's happening is the immigrants' fault. So we need to do re-immigration. We need to get rid of these people. It's all their fault that I'm broke, that life ain't working, and they're not looking at the elites. It has to be studied, man. These Edomites are dumb, right? They're low IQ and they're emotional, which is a dangerous combination. And that's what's going to lead into race riots and all sorts, right? Because they're building up the hate. This is Revelations 13 and 16. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So they're going to continue to create crises. And then through that crisis, you're going to get an increase in police state and everything that comes with that, pre-crime, summary executions, internment camps, everything that comes with it. And there's always going to be an excuse, whether it's immigrants or terrorism or whatever the excuse is. There's going to be an increase in the police state. There's going to be a devaluing of your currency, right? A reduction in your ability to make ends meet, right? Crisis upon crisis upon crisis, to the end where you're going to be begging for peace, security, and food. And it's going to come in the form of that chip. This is really what's happening, right? And in the midst of all that, there's going to be mad crises. You're already programming the majority of these Edomites to feel like they're victims, to feel like they're, they're the victim in the world now. It's white genocide, and we gotta fight back. And it's nothing of the sort is actually happening. But the propaganda is out there heavy to justify the bloodletting that these Edomites want to do, and they're gonna aim these Edomites at us. All right. It's man, These Edomites are ready to go buck wild. They really feel like a victim right now. They're really feeling like the victim. Sorry. Exodus 21:9, it says, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord, see, a sword is sharpened and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree, and he have given it to be furbished that it may be handled. The sword is sharpened and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. These Edomites are getting more and more frustrated. They're more and more drinking down the propaganda. Right now, the latest thing is that if you're not white, you're not really a citizen of America. You're not a citizen of the UK if you're not white. Like, it doesn't matter if you're born there. This is what they're pushing now, and this is all with a purpose, because they want that explosion to happen, that chaos. What was that thing where he was chatting about? Elon was,
and
Germany, England thing seems so insane.
It's totally insane. I actually didn't realize it was like.
And the thing is, this immigration thing is pure propaganda. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. Esau himself set up a system where after World War II, you can go to a country, right, and apply for asylum. You're not illegal in that country until your asylum is denied. All right, and then you are illegal, and then you can be deported. So the 70% of in Europe, and I'm not talking about the US. The US got their own thing going on. I'm talking about in the UK, France, all these places. When you hear them talking about illegal immigrants, they're not actually talking about illegal immigrants. They're talking about asylum seekers. These are people that come to the country, right, without documents, and they apply for asylum. Now they put them through a rigorous regime. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 2 years, and at the end of that application process, they'll decide whether they're fit for asylum or they get rejected and then they're deported, right? And this is something Esau set up. But the way Esau's painting it is like all these people are invaders, they're this, that, and the other. No, you have caused destruction throughout the world. So there's a lot of people that come to the West seeking asylum. Simple as that. Now, some of them criminals, yeah. But there's criminals everywhere, but they're trying to over-sensualize and hype up every incidence of crime because they want these Edomites to feel like they're victims, which is not the case at all.
Such a huge number of people that got
12,000. Yeah, well, far above Russia, far above China,
right,
far above anywhere on Earth. UK is number one.
Well, things I actually, I talked to friends of mine in England, and I was like, hey, aren't you worried about this? Like,
there's nothing to worry about. The asylum seeker population in the UK is like 1.something% of the UK. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. There's no real significant issue with immigrants or asylum seekers in general in the UK. It's just there's a lot of propaganda highlighting certain situations, and these Edomites are looking for someone to blame. Right? They will highlight the instance where you got Pakistani rape gangs or whatever, right? But then don't reflect the fact that most of the rapists in the UK are still Edomites, and they're not. What about the Epstein list? And all? They're not even looking at all that. They're just trying to find a way to blame everything on immigrants. All right.
Shouldn't you be protesting more?
And this guy's been fanning the flames.
And I mean, the problem is that like the legacy mainstream media doesn't cover this stuff. They're like, oh, everything's fine.
So instead, they've got the controlled agent far right media constantly pumping out lies and propaganda against immigrants, right? And there's different levels of it too. The main level is anti-Islamic, but really they're covering everyone under that banner. It's just demonic.
Right. Most people aren't even aware of it until they come knocking on your door.
Yeah, until like so. I mean,
most people in the UK don't have no negative interaction with immigrants or asylum seekers because they only make up 1.2% of the population. Like, again, like, the context is key. But these guys, if you listen to these people on the internet, they'll make it think like you go out your house, there's an asylum seeker on your doorstep trying to rape your daughter. Like that's not the case at all. It's just insanity.
These like lovely sort of small towns in you know, in England, Scotland, Ireland. You know, they've been like sort of living their lives quietly. They're
That's not true. That's not true either. Right? There's no significant increase in crime in these small towns, other than where they've been impoverished. Because there's an increase in crime, not just with immigrants, but also the local population. Like you find that in a lot of these coastal cities, coastal towns in England, where they don't get tourism no more. Most of those towns have fallen to poverty and drug abuse. So there's an increase in crime there, but it's not just from immigrants, it's for the people that live there too, because they're down all the way bad. But these, like I said, these guys want to sensationalize and propagandize to blame everything on immigrants. And that's what he's doing right now in this this talk,
like
right?
the Hobbits, frankly. So it's in fact, J.R.R. Tolkien based the Hobbits on people he knew in small town England.
Yeah. So then, what they're trying to say is that immigrants are the orcs, and this all plays into scientific racism, and it's the same stuff coming back all over again. So if you're brown, you're a savage beast that that all you do is rape, kill, and steal. So you're the problem. This is basically what's being pushed.
They were just like lovely people who.
And these Edomites are just innocent people that if there weren't no immigrants around, there would be no crime, and no one would do nothing wrong, and life would just be a utopia without immigrants and brown people around. This is a real thing. This is a real propaganda that's being pushed all over the internet on the algorithms to these Edomites. This is real, and this is going to lead to Jake being killed. It's not a joke. These Edomites they believe this stuff wholeheartedly.
Like to, smoke their pipe and have nice meals and everything's pleasant.
Meanwhile, the number one pedophile in UK history is a national hero known as Jimmy Savile. But all that's going to be ignored. It's just the immigrants, right?
The Hobbits in the Shire. The Shire, he's talking about, places like Hertfordshire. Like the Shire is around in the Greater London area, Oxfordshire type of thing. And
what's happening in Oxfordshire, bro? Like, please. What is happening in Oxfordshire? Stop it. Like, bro, them places are safe as you like, man. Yeah, man. The reason they've been able to enjoy the Shire is because hard men have protected them from the dangers of the world. And so what they're invoking is the so-called white man needs to stand up and start dealing with these immigrants. This is what they're pushing out there. Listen to the language he's using. The reason why UK is down bad is because the English men are not standing up against all these immigrants. This is what they're pushing. And the government ain't doing nothing about them.
But since they have almost no exposure to the dangers of the world.
Yeah, they're just innocent. These Edomites living in these towns in England are just innocent people. Butter could have melted in their mouth, and these dangerous, bloodthirsty immigrants are flooding their towns and killing them all innocently. Like this is what they would want you to believe is happening minute by minute in the UK. It's not the reality, but this is what the propaganda is online. And these Edomites, they want to believe it because it puts them into a victim status and it gives them someone to take out all of their failures on.
They don't realize that they're there until one day, 1,000 people show up in your village of 500 out of nowhere.
What?
And rape and start raping the kids.
This is crazy. This is not happening. This is not happening. This didn't even happen. And then the one thing they mention is these the rape gangs in Rotherham, I believe, Rotherham and Bradford. There was like two towns which were like bare Pakistanis in there. They had little rape gangs going on, right? But this didn't happen overnight. These were established communities. But the thing is, they don't talk about all the white rape gangs that exist all over the UK. And so this is the issue. Like, they're focusing on one or two things and try and broad stroke it. It's stupid, man.
This has now happened God knows how many times in Britain.
How many times? Can you tell us? Because we know how many times. It's happened like 2-3 times. But it also is happening with white gangs. Right? Jimmy Savile was one of them. But there we go.
And the crazy
Literally
thing
raping.
is,
It's right. Like, there's some
Yeah.
10-year-old got raped in Ireland like last week.
yeah, there's literally.
Yeah, but 10-year-olds are always being getting raped in Ireland and in Britain. See, like I said, they're cherry picking instances where a migrant does something as if that's all migrants. As if the local population, these Edomites, don't also do those things. This is crazy.
They snatched some kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you criticize it, you can get arrested. And that's where it gets insane. It's like,
How
how
always criticizing it.
are they
Yeah,
not
you literally
protecting
criticize
people?
it. Like the
And here it is, like they're the victims, you know, they're the downtrodden, you know, and they need to rise up. Yeah, listen, man, that's the time of Jacob's trouble is drawing. These Edomites are getting angrier and angrier, and all we need to do is go check the comments. And these Edomites, the usual suspects, 13% of the population. Who's the real problem? They need to start re-immigrating the African Americans because they're not really Americans either. Need to send them all back to Africa. The same thing here in the UK. Need to send back all the West Indians and the Jamaicans and then back out the country. If one of your grandparents is not white, then you don't really belong here. This is real and this is growing. This is a real. Type in re-immigration into YouTube, re-immigration into Twitter, and you will see like this is a real thing that they're pushing. All right, and it's not just going to be deportation. They're going to actually start killing people. Jeremiah 30:3 says, "For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." These devils are going to get real cold and bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
And when they do it, they're going to feel justified because they feel like they're under attack from Jake. They feel like they're the victims.
Restore Britain's demographics. What's your plan? You want to restore Britain's demographics. What's your plan to do that? How could that practically happen?
Broadly speaking, we're talking about remigration and not simply being content to stop the demographic experiment halfway through, because so much of it is already baked in to future demographic projections, but also trying to reverse mass immigration as well, and to pursue a policy as we describe it of net negative immigration, remigration, call it whatever you want, but basically doing our best to engineer a situation in which we don't just sort of shrug our shoulders and go, oh yes, well, the left and the right jointly in Britain has subjected us to a perverse, fanatical demographic experiment without a vote ever being cast in its favor or a shot ever fired in defense. But now that it's done, it's a fait accompli, and if you want to reverse it, then you must be some kind of fascist. I'm not going to accept those rules of engagement. I don't think we can reasonably be expected to suppose that our adversaries, our political adversaries, should be able to subject us to an experiment as damaging as this, and yet we are forbidden the right to reverse it. So pursuing practical policies, basically a mixture of negative and positive incentives, trying to get immigrants who have come into this country and who have not assimilated to leave. And of course, if they're foreign criminals.
And they say not assimilated, but if you go on the internet, a lot of people are saying that Jake, you can't assimilate. And they use instances where Jake commits a crime to say, see, these people, they're born here, but they still can't assimilate, as if Edomites don't commit crimes. So